Hello. So for the project Morality in the World Today, I interviewed people and I decided to make a video, as you can see, to kind of explain in a better way of how the people that I interviewed saw it, because I couldn't really put it into a paper. Like, it was quite hard for me. So the first person that I interviewed, his name is Deshaun, he's my boyfriend. He lives in New Jersey, but he goes to school in Dean College, and he's 20 years old. So I thought that it would be good to interview him because he just got out of high school. Like, he got out of high school a couple years ago, so he grew up where, like, technology wasn't really that big. So, like, I don't know, I think he'd have a good answer. His answer was that real legends never die. He said that everyone decides for themselves how they want to be acted, like how they want to be remembered by, and like how people want to act in real life. He said that family is a really good way on how it helps base on how you become who you are. How if you come from like a very good like background and like your family shares memories of how one another used to act when they were little, you kind of pick up those traits of and think like, oh, this is how I want to act, and that's how you then become who that you are based off of like the way that you were raised and like the people around you were like raised, because they bring it into your life and like they make it kind of like how you were brought up as well. He also said that morality is based person to person, and that some people have good morals, some people have bad morals. So it really depends on like, you know, how you grow up, what you believe in, like if you believe that respect is a serious thing and all that kind of good stuff. So the next person that I interviewed, her name is Haley. She's a freshman at Dean College. She grew up in Massachusetts, in Boston, Mass. So I thought that it'd be very good to interview her because she's very family based. So I thought that her like thoughts would be very like not based upon like I don't know, like different aspects with how like she's brought up culturally as well. And she said that morality is taught differently throughout different families, cultures, and the norms where you live, and that everyone is raised differently based on how your parents are raised, kind of just like what Deshaun said, and how if your parents raise you, if they're raised a certain way, they're going to want to try to raise you the same way. And the way that she had an example for it was that, like, if you go into a house and you're expected to put your shoes, like, take your shoes out the door, or like if you pray before you eat or anything like that, that's all like based upon how you were raised and like how your parents taught you to be and how they like molded you into the person that you are. The next person that I interviewed, her name is Alejandra. I went to high school with her. I was in a youth forum group with her, and I decided to ask her what she thought morality was, because of the fact that where we met was based on like a group that was like based on respect and like how to treat others the way you want to be treated. And when I asked her if she believes that there's morality in the world today, she said no. She said no, that because people don't have respect for anybody else, and that people talk to each other however they want to be talked to, and people don't have like the common courtesy to be nice to everybody, to smile at one another. If you see somebody walking, people tend to give them meaner looks rather than to give them nicer looks. She said that it's based on how you grew up through school, so like the friends that you pick in school and how they act and how you want to act based on them. And she said that a good example was because she works at she's a cashier, and one of her chores is to take out garbage, and she was doing one of her chores, and she was taking out the garbage like she should have supposed to be doing, and somebody ended up waiting in a checkout line, and she couldn't get to them right away, and as soon as she went and got to them as soon as she could, the woman was really rude, saying that she was in a rush, and she didn't have time for her to wait for her, and like, she thought that it was a very rude thing, because like, she saw that she was doing something, and she could have waited, and she didn't have to be rude about it. So then I thought that it'd be very smart to ask my mom on how she thinks morality is in the world, because she grew up, like, I'm not saying that she's really old, but like she grew up where like they didn't have cell phones until she was in college, so she grew up totally different than how I grew up, because I grew up where there were cell phones and all of like this technology, and she didn't. So I decided to ask her because I thought that she would know differently than everybody else how they thought morality was. And she said that it's based upon social media nowadays, and that people become so mesmerized by how famous people act and how they react to things that they become, that they in return want to act like them, they want to be like them. And she said that one of the big things is like watching people, like watching all the hardships on the news, like people getting killed and all like the political things, like it molding people to how like moral should be and how different it is. And she said that I thought this was interesting because my mom said that society shields us from becoming too worried about morality and like how people treat each other, and they shield it by like selling products like guns and like pepper spray and like different types of like products to make us feel safer where we are and to make us feel more entitled. And then, last but not least, sorry about that, I interviewed my brother. My brother is in high school. He's a sophomore in high school. He plays on a hockey team, and he's very like good. He's a very good kid. So I just had to ask him because I don't know. He didn't he didn't get in trouble, and I figured he would have a very good answer. And he said that morality is based on the person, like leaders versus followers, which I thought was interesting because he said people either will go with the crowd and be mean to others because they want to fit into a group, or they will be the outlaw, like they'll stand out and they'll stick up for other people and other friends because they don't think that it's right what they're doing. And he said that they do it based on what's important to them. So if somebody wants to be like fit in with the cool kid, he'll make sure to make fun of somebody who is like an easy target rather than trying to be nice to the person and helping them fit in as well. And he said a good example of this would be like high schoolers going to parties and how they try to fit in with other people and they try to be accepted, and that's why they go to parties even if they don't like to drink or they don't like to smoke or they don't like the environment. They still do it because they want to fit in with one another. Okay, so throughout all of this, I thought that it was really interesting to see how like everybody kind of believed the same thing, from like my mom to like my brother and to all my friends, how they all believed that it was all based on like it all comes from somewhere, that either it's like family or friends, and it's definitely the people around you and where you grew up. One of the big things that I figured throughout all of them, it was that like my friends and my family that have cars, they said that like one of the big places that people lack morality is on the road, because people get like this type of confidence when they get in front of a steering wheel that they think that they could drive more dangerously, and that's why it causes more accidents. And I thought that was pretty interesting. I thought overall it was very good, the way that they all kind of knew. If they didn't know what it was, they tried to give me their best input on what they thought that it was. And I think that I agree with them mostly, because I believe that people are, like, they're going to act the way they act based on the people around them and how they grew up. Because you don't just learn how to be rude to somebody, you learn how to be nice. Because when people are so little, like, when little kids are so honest, they're so nice, and they try to, like, make everybody else feel welcome. And as you grow up, you start to get kind of, like, feel, like, an entitlement that, like, you don't have to respect anybody else because, you know, you're better than everybody else. And that's how people are portrayed on social media. So I think that that's very big too, because people act the way that they see people that they want to be like